Welcome to Binah Says, a podcast created to reveal the wisdom within everyone. On this week's episode, I interview Parker Sloan, the soul behind the Rolling Sloan and the Curated podcast, which are channels that bring tremendous light to the health and wellness industry through a holistic and integrative approach to life. We discuss all things Parker Sloan, her background and how she got started, her journey through the ups and downs of health challenges, our very special friendship, and we tap into the spiritual side of things through the wisdom of Kabbalah. Here is the Binah, or wisdom, of Parker Sloan. Parker Sloan Lerow. If in case anyone was wondering, that's how you actually pronounce it.
In case anyone was wondering, Sloan isn't my first name or my last name. That's the full thing. Put it on the books.
So you are the host of the Curated podcast. You've been creating content as the Rolling Sloan since 2018. You're pursuing your master's in nutrition. You're a certified yoga teacher, and you're the face of the fastest growing chocolate bar company in the nation. My first question for you actually is, what don't you do?
It's a great question. You know, I can't do a handstand yet.
Okay.
But we're getting there.
That's good to know. I didn't know that. As your best friend, I didn't know that.
Really? No, but I haven't really practiced it, so I can't. It's in me.
You'll get there.
I'll get there.
You'll get there. So I guess we should kick this off maybe with a little context for the audience, which, you know, people ask us all the time. They see us and they say our friendship is really unique. It's not like one they've seen before. So how did we meet?
Oh, how did we meet? Our origin story goes hand in hand with the Kabbalah story for both of us. So that's really special. I was at a cafe one day, Dr. Smood, Cafe Smood actually, before it had closed down here in Wynwood, and this girl taps me on the shoulder. I turn around and I see this beautiful woman with this amazing hair and these blue eyes and this perfect skin and a really cool outfit. And she's like, "What are you eating? That looks really good." And I was like, "It's a turkey sandwich." Ironic, she doesn't eat turkey out. I mean, well, you're kosher. So that day you were vegetarian. You wouldn't have eaten the sandwich ever, but it looked good. This is how we sparked the conversation. Thank God for that turkey sandwich. And in the span of literally 2 minutes, we end up exchanging all this information and realizing we had a lot in common, and then made plans to hang out. And in the following week, on the day that we were supposed to hang out, you had to rain check because you had this spiritual workshop, as you called it, that you had to go to. And I asked you what the workshop was, and you said that it was a Kabbalah 1 class. And I won't get into all the nitty-gritty of it, but you were the 4th sign in that same week that was about Kabbalah. I had only heard about it once in my life, 2 years prior. And then it kept popping up for me in that same week. And when you said you were going to the class, it was like, okay, what's up with this Kabbalah thing? I gotta go. So let's go. And we sat there in the first class, didn't say a word to each other because we were in a class. And at the end, you turned around to me and said, I turned 27 this Friday. I'm having a Shabbat birthday. I really feel like you need to be there. And actually, you can't tell anyone that I invited you last minute because I've turned people away. We don't have seats. But I really feel like you need to be there. And I met every single loving person in your life. And from there, we've been pretty inseparable. So that's the origin story. Yeah.
Thank you. I love hearing you say it.
Yeah.
So I wanted to first talk about, as the Rolling Sloan, you've been making content since 2018. And I think something that you do really well is staying authentic to your voice. And I think in today's world, we have to be very mindful of who we let in to our lives and their voice, and how that voice can, for better or for worse, influence our lives. And I don't listen to many voices out there, but even as my best friend, I love listening to yours. I think it's so authentic. How do you stay authentic to your story on social media?
It's a great question, and I think that this topic of authenticity comes up a lot, especially in the world of social media, because there is so much a lack of reality in social media. Most of it is a highlight reel. Most of it is people just showing the best parts. Most of it is people trying to sell you something to in some way or another, to sell themselves, to sell an image of themselves. And that's all fine, but it can be hard to find these quote unquote authentic voices. And I feel like it's what creates so much dissonance for people who want to create, because they feel the lack of authenticity in other people, or maybe even in themselves. And when they do want to create and share with the world, there's this big resistance, right? Because they feel like I can't get in front of the camera. I can't, I can't create. Who am I? Who am I to even create? And I had that voice in the beginning. I had huge imposter syndrome. I had a fear of speaking in front of the camera. I remember when I first started, especially the Rolling Sloan, and it was 2018, and one of the first things I ever put on my story was sharing my favorite yoga mat. And I pulled out the phone. I was in a dark room. It was not well lit at all. And I recorded it at least 10 times. Guys, this is my favorite yoga mat. It's Manduka. It's the Light Pro, whichever one it is. And I recorded it at least 10 times. And then actually I had a moment. I wasn't going to put it up. And I said, this is ridiculous. I sound super funny. It sounds like I'm blabbing. I'm just going to delete it. And before I did, I said, no, I actually want people to know about the mat though. Like, I want people to know about the mat. So I posted it and I just didn't look at it. And then that was the end of the story. And I think that parallels what I have to say about authenticity, which is when you just want to share with people, that's really all you have to do, and it will come out authentically. I think that when people feel like someone else is not coming across authentic, or like they themselves are finding it hard to generate authenticity within themselves, it's because there's a part of either that other person or themselves that is kind of trying to receive something from people, right? Like, oh, this person's just like, they're just trying to sell me, or like, I feel like I'm posting this and it's because I want the likes, it's because I want the attention, like I want something from it. But when you are giving just to give, that is when authenticity just shines. You don't have to think about it. Like you're just giving, right? Mm-hmm. You're not receiving for the self alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Receiving
for the sake of sharing.
Hinting at what we'll talk about later, which is Kabbalah and spirituality.
Yeah.
Can you take me back to, you alluded to it a little bit, but your life at the time of 2018, your mindset around posting and sharing, what did you feel like other people were maybe thinking about it at the time? I mean, this was 7 years ago. So what was it like even creating at that time?
I was in college and I had taken on a quote unquote healthy lifestyle since like middle into high school. And there's a whole origin story to that. But I was into, fun, healthy foods and smoothie bowls and plant-based eating. I was vegan at the time. And that's really like the origin of the Rolling Sloan. I just wanted a separate page from my personal Instagram, which is non-existent now. It's totally dormant. It's there, but it's, don't use it. And I just wanted this other page to be able to post photos of like food and yoga and movement and healthy mindset and whatever was inspiring me. And so I actually will have to look back to see if I've archived my first posts. I don't know if I have, but if you scrolled back and they're there, you'll see very amateur photos of like oatmeal and smoothie bowls and like kiwis, like me doing yoga, just selfies that have a caption of a long post of streams of consciousness. And so that's really where it started. Remind me your exact question, because I'm going off on a tangent.
No, you covered it. Like, what was it like creating at that time?
Oh, yeah.
I remember, I think you've mentioned to me, like, people thought it was weird
Yeah,
that you were sharing.
I wanted to touch on that. So I was in a long-term relationship at the time. God bless him. God bless Ryan. We're still friends to this day. Thankfully, we've reconnected, and I am so happy that he's in my life. My first love, and we had dated from sophomore year of high school into sophomore year of college, and I think I had started this page, I guess it was, like sophomore year. And he told me, it's weird that you do this. It's a little weird. He sat, it was a very dramatic thing. He sat me down and he said, I need to tell you something. It's a little weird that you post about your food. And I remember being shocked. I was like, what? He was like, yeah, like even my friends have had to tell me like that it's weird that you do this. And I remember thinking two things. One, so many people do this. Like everyone posts their food on their stories, on their Instagrams. Like this is just a normal thing. And I just happen to be doing it with like some more intention, like for reasons of sharing. And then the other thing that I thought was, this obviously isn't going to work out. And I've told him the story, so it's fine. But many years later, but I didn't know what the vision was for Rolling Sloan at the time, and I did not know I'd be getting my master's degree. I didn't know where my life was taking me. I just knew that whatever was brewing there in the first seed of Rolling Sloan was going to be a massive part of my life, and I couldn't be around anyone who was trying to make me feel like it wasn't something that was meant for me. Yeah.
That sounds like who you are to this day.
I would agree.
So, how would you say that your style of creating has evolved? What are you most excited about to create now? What do you share the most about on your page?
That's a great question. I feel like I'm still figuring it out, to be honest. The quality of my posts have definitely gone up. I do more editing and we didn't start off with reels, so Instagram started off as more photos, and now we can tell more stories via video. Having the podcast is going to switch up a lot of my content. There is a lot more spirituality. It's such a catch-all term, or such an overused term, but more of my connection to something higher than me, and also these sort of stream of consciousness ways of thinking I'd like to share, because it really is, I think, what makes me me in my own personal life. And I feel like it's really easy to put yourself in a box when you're creating content and think, at least for me personally, right, okay, I have to post the nutrition, and then I'm posting like supplements, and then I'm posting a recipe, and then I'm posting movement, and it's not all that. And you really can be so many things, and that's really what breeds more of that authenticity that we spoke about, right? I think when you just, and we've spoken about this a lot, creating just for the sake of sharing, right? It doesn't have to fall into a certain niche at all. And that's really what ends up attracting people, but not because you're doing it to attract people. It's just because you know that by sharing all the parts of you that are feeling light, you will spark that in other people. So that's really where I want my content to go. I want it to be very dynamic, but not because I'm planning it out to be that way. I'm just trying to show all of my fragments.
Your bio is knowledge is power. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, so, the origin story of how I even got into health and wellness, I wouldn't have called it that at the time, is that I remember I was 12 or 13. I was a very picky kid, and I promise this sounds like I'm not answering the question, but I am answering the question. I was a very picky kid. I couldn't eat salad. I had to ask for tomato sauce off of the pizza. I liked pickles and soy sauce with rice and like not much else. Okay. Chicken fingers, right? And I remember walking into the kitchen one day and my dad was like stuffing kale and spinach into a smoothie. I was like, that is disgusting. What are you doing? He's like, I got my blood results back and I have high cholesterol. So I have to clean up my diet. So I'm making a green smoothie. And I can remember to this day, it felt like a literal light bulb went off in my head. I was like, wait a second. Food can make you healthier? I knew that junk food made you unhealthy. Like everyone knew. If you go to McDonald's every day, it's not good for you. But I did not have a conception of the idea that good food, clean food could actually change your health for the better. And I just dove in from there. And I was so interested in what foods did what for your blood and for your eyes and for your body and exercise. And it really just snowballed from there. And I feel like since then, it's just every time I learn something new about the things that I'm personally interested in, it makes me feel so empowered. And so especially in regard to health, the ironic thing is that there's a lot of knowledge out there and there's a lot of information and misinformation and disinformation. And so I guess this is where you could, allude to like the tree of knowledge, right? Or the tree of knowledge, right? And so it can be not a good thing to have too much knowledge, and that's where it seeps into that. But I think that when you can empower yourself through knowledge, like living a healthy lifestyle, like knowing why it's good to go for a walk every day, knowing why it's good to go for a walk after a meal, knowing why it's good to eat whole foods over processed foods. If you're blind to these things, you're probably not going to do them. You're going to fall into the status quo. But when you have knowledge about them, you can make more empowering decisions. For me, knowledge really is a lot of light. It shines a light like a flashlight on the areas in which we are dark, and we can't do but make better decisions when we have more knowledge in our life. So that's what it feels like to me, and I've felt very empowered in the things that I've learned about nutrition, about health, about movement, about God, about spirituality. When I learn more about people, right, I feel more empowered to know them better. And so it means a lot of things, but I think that's a good summary of knowledge is power for me.
I remember early on in our friendship, when it came to anything health related, you had the answer for it. And I was like, how does this girl have the answer to all of my questions? Like literally, I was like, she's an encyclopedia. Like, I would say, maybe it was like about like milk, like the difference between like pasteurized and like something like no one even knows. And you had this whole monologue about the difference between raw milk, whole milk, pasteurized, unpasteurized. And I was like, I gotta keep this girl around. I don't think I've ever told you that, actually.
I don't think so.
I've never told you that.
No.
That was like one of the aha moments I had. I said, yep, this girl's staying.
Wow, you have a personal health coach, nutritionist, just every day.
Yeah. So I've had the pleasure of meeting your parents, and I will say there's aspects of them that you have, like you're a combination in many ways of your parents, but then there's something that is just so uniquely you and different, and like radiates and shines. And what do you think that is in yourself?
Interesting. Are you asking? That's a hard question to answer.
What do you think are the things that you have from your parents, and what are the things that maybe are uniquely you?
I am so grateful for my parents. They've both taught me a lot of different things. I think I take a lot of the independence from my dad. My dad really brought me up to be a very independent woman, maybe even to a slight fault. And I don't just mean independent in terms of like what I'm doing, but it's, you know, the work that I do, independent mindset. Don't rely on anyone, especially a man. Don't, you know, make sure that you're taking care of yourself. And it's not to say like don't depend on other people. Like ask people for help, which actually is something that I have a really big problem with, and this is probably why. But he wanted to make sure that I was never fully dependent on anyone in my life. And I think it's served me well for the most part. We grew up with him being a VP in, you know, corporate America, for a telecommunications company. And then he got laid off and things were rough for a bit in my childhood, and my parents did a really good job of not letting us really feel that. So I'm really grateful for that. But then he went on to create his own business and fully be an entrepreneur. And I have definitely taken that in suit. So that's a big thing for my dad. Also, my dad is probably the most giving person that I know. Like the most giving. I've never seen that in another human being that way. And the sacrifice and the selflessness that he continues to this day to show without trying, it feels like it is literally like sewed into his skin and into his soul. I mean, he's a Leo. It really, really shows. And I strive to be more like that. I definitely strive to be more like that. My mom, one of the best things that she did in bringing us up, I think, was teaching us to be kind to other people and to always notice other people. I remember being in middle school, elementary school, middle school, and, you know, there's like the security guards at school who are just patrolling, and people usually don't like them. And I don't know how it was for everyone in school, but for us, it was like we had like Miss Chapman at the front at our Vita Middle here in Miami, and down in the crossings, and everyone was like scared of her, and she would scream at people. My mom was like, don't be scared of her. Just say hi to her. Like, say good morning. And I would. And she was so nice to me. Every day I walk in, she'd be like, hi, Miss Parker. Hey. And we were like best friends. Everyone was like, how are you friends with her? Right? And there's so many ways to this day that I know bleeds into who I am. Like, I will never not ask for a waiter's name. I will never not make conversation. People have called me out on it, and I think about it. Like, too many people call me out on it and are like, why do you, like, you're talking to the waiter. Why are you asking them their name? I can't help but do that. Mm-hmm. Right. And I know that that's where it comes from. My parents grew up very different than I did. And they both had it hard growing up, for sure. And there's definitely a lot of unresolved things for both them and me there. But if I had to think of aspects of them that are in me, those are a couple of them. Speaking on what makes me different, I often ask myself, how did I get here? Because there are a lot of things about me that are very different than them. Very different than them. You're gonna have to ask different questions on that one, because it's a little too open-ended, I think.
Okay, we'll keep it. Maybe we'll put a pin in it.
Okay.
And come back.
Okay.
I wanted to talk about, so you graduated from FSU and you studied marketing and communications.
Media and communications.
Okay,
yeah.
Media and communications. What led you down that path?
I had no idea what I wanted to study. I thought I was going to go to NYU and study journalism, and thank God I did not. Thank God I did not apply for a scholarship and go over there. I mean, I guess if I did, I would have ended up still being in the place I was meant to be. But when I went to Florida State, I fully didn't know what I wanted to study. And I actually was in a program called Exploratory, which was a really cool program that they had, where it was basically for kids who didn't know exactly what they wanted to study. And for the first 2 years, you were able to both take your prerequisite classes that everyone needed to take regardless, and then also a mix of different majors. So you could pick, I think, between 2 or 3 totally different majors and just take low-level classes within all of them. And so I think I took a couple classes in advertising, which I don't know why I did that. And then I also took classes in dietetics because I was really interested in nutrition, but I didn't necessarily love the degrees that they offered at FSU. You could either study sports dietetics or food science. And I didn't want to study food science, and I wasn't necessarily trying to be en route to be either a dietitian or especially a sports dietitian. So I started that route and then decided, you know, there's something I'm going to end up doing in this field somehow, some way. I don't know how I thought that way back then, but I just knew. And I'm just going to study another major that, you know, gets me through graduating college. And I studied media and communications. It was a really good degree at FSU. They were well known for it. And to be honest, I don't think I thought to myself at the time it would be easy for me, but I definitely thought it quote unquote makes sense. Like nobody will question the fact that I'm doing this. If anything, they'll commend it and be like, wow, so great. Parker's doing media and communications. Makes so much sense for her. She was on the morning announcements when she was in 5th grade and she did it in high school too. Great. So I just did that. And it's ironic because now I'm doing a lot of things in media and communications, although it was not for that, and I would have done it anyway.
I'm sure it's paid off.
In
some way.
Yeah.
In some hidden way. Were you as intuitive back then as you are now?
I don't think I knew how to utilize intuition back then. I used to be extremely indecisive. I mean,
same.
I mean, like, wow. It actually, it plugged my entire life. It created such a bottleneck in so many areas of my life. I could never decipher between even the smallest of decisions, and I would pause so much because of it. It would make me anxious. Like, I'll just stop it there because I could keep going on tangents about it, but I was so indecisive. I didn't know how to use my intuition, and then there were moments. I think actually when I started practicing yoga, which is when I was about 17 in my senior year of high school, I started to experience like synchronicities, which I think goes into the whole bucket of sort of like connection, intuition, synchronicities, tapping in. And I was like the weirdest thing I had ever experienced. I remember at that time, especially, I was really close to my godmother, and I would tell her about it, and she'd be like, "Yes, it's normal." She's like super witchy and super cool. She's like, "This is normal. The numbers that you're seeing, the people that are calling when you think of them, the signs that you're seeing, it's all normal." And I actually like wanted to turn it off for a second because it was so weird to me. And now it's like, it's weird if synchronicities aren't happening. But I think that started bleeding into me feeling into energy more and using my intuition. I don't think it was until, I don't know, maybe the past 5 years or so that I really started zoning into intuition and using it in language. Maybe it was a feeling before, and now it's like an actual tool. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
You're probably the most intuitive person I know.
Wow.
Yeah. You could put that on the record.
Wow. Can I ask you why?
Oh, now you're asking me?
You got to expand on that one.
I didn't know I was going to be asked questions on this podcast. You just have moments where you're just like very clear as to what to do next, or you're very clear on a feeling, or an energy, or like something that you need to do, and you see it like with full certainty, and you're like, this is it.
Wow, thanks.
Aside from getting all these just like divine downloads that we laugh about, I would say that's it. So there's something that people, I wouldn't say most people know this about you, but you actually lived in Uruguay for some time. And I remember that was one of the things that caught me by surprise when we first met. This was part of the story of our origin story. We only had about like 2 minutes of talking because you were on a call for work. And in those 120 seconds, you mentioned that you lived in Uruguay, and I was like, okay, this girl's cool. What was that like living in a foreign country?
Whoa. Well, that brings me to the background of why I was in Uruguay. This will be a tangent of an answer. So the reason I went to Uruguay is I was hired by a family to be their personal wellness coach, consultant, yoga instructor, meditation instructor. And I did that alongside my partner at the time, who is an exercise physiologist, also a wellness coach. And he had been in the right place at the right time. Happened to be sitting with the executive assistant of this amazing family. A couple weeks later, like he was at a dinner doing that. And a couple weeks later, she calls him and is like, look, my boss is looking for someone to like be with him like all the time and like travel the world with him and like can you do that for us? And then I ended up joining in and doing that with the wife and just sort of co-collaborating on the whole thing, and it was really cool. I couldn't have planned for that for sure. And I think that the shocking answer of what Uruguay was like.
Okay, so Uruguay.
Yeah. So
You remember seeing it?
yeah, co-collaborating. I was going to say co-collaborating. So Uruguay was both beautiful and very hard. Very hard. Obviously, it was very far. I had to break a lot of glass ceilings in myself to even accept the fact that I was going to do that. I mean, I was actually in the middle. Nobody knows this. I was in the middle of getting my health coaching certification and then got hired for that. Don't ask me how that happens. So there was like personal imposter syndrome that went into that. There was, wow, I'm leaving home. I don't know when I'll be back. It was a very indefinite position. So we could have been there for years. It was really great in the sense that Uruguay is so extremely beautiful. I mean, it's like so exotic. It feels like Big Sur, California beaches and scenery and succulents meets the rolling hills of Tuscany. That is literally what it is like there. I was staying in Punta del Este, and then also we lived in two places there. I lived in Punta and then also in between Punta and Jose Ignacio. So I lived along the highway there, Ruta 10, in a house, and we were there on the beach, and then you could go inland and there's like vineyards and like olive oil farms, and it's gorgeous. More cows than people there. The working with the people that we worked with was also great. But truthfully, it was very hard because of the relationship. I'm really grateful that we got to do that together, but things kind of weren't great from before, and I actually was going to fully not take the job and end the relationship. And then we decided that it was a bigger and better opportunity to stay together and to do it. And not a lot changed, and actually things kind of went downhill. I had to learn a lot of things about him during that time and about myself, and that's such a beautiful process to go through. I was really grateful to be there for the relationship during that time, and it taught me a lot about myself. I like gratefully learned things about him, you know, and we tried to make it work. And then we left there, and
You came back to Miami?
came back to Miami. Yeah. We could keep going on with that, or I think that's the ending of your question, which is how was Uruguay. But to be honest,
What was your greatest takeaway from that period of your life?
Oh, that absolutely anything is possible. Absolutely anything is possible. I mean, I went from I'm gonna get a health coaching certification because my undergrad wasn't fulfilling. I know I want to do something in helping people in health, and so I'm gonna get this IIN certification. I did it with the integrative, IIN for those of you who know it, Integrative Institute of Nutrition, and and I didn't know what I was going to do with that. And then in the midst of it, I get hired by a billionaire family to move to New York and then move to Uruguay and be their yoga instructor, their meditation instructor, to work out with them and to talk to their personal chefs and figure out what food they should be eating, and then like look at what water filters they need for all their homes and figure out what supplements they need. Like you could not make that up. It was the most glass ceiling shattering thing I had ever experienced. And from there, it was like absolutely anything is possible. Absolutely anything. So that was my biggest takeaway. Yeah.
Are you still interested in coaching moving forward? Are you coaching now?
I don't promote coaching as a service front facing. There are people who reach out to this day to ask if I do one-on-one work, and I'll take one-on-one work. It kind of just really depends on the situation, to be honest. It's not, I mean, full transparency, it's not something that I quote unquote like need to be doing, nor am I trying to be a health coach. Even with my degree, I'm not necessarily trying to be a nutritionist. There's other plans that I have for that, and there's a different reason why I'm doing the studying work of getting my master's degree.
We'll talk about that.
We'll talk about that. But there are case-by-case situations where I do feel that I would want to take someone on when they ask me, and I do. Yeah.
And what's the most common problem or, let's say, struggle that people experience and that they come to you for? What's like a common thread?
Yeah, I think people are just so confused. I think people are so confused and so overwhelmed. A lot of people who come to me have done some of the work of, looking into different health figures online, listening to podcasts, maybe reading books, or maybe not even that much, but they've tried something, right? Like the common thread is that people have tried something to improve their health. I will say specifically, I definitely have girls come to me with gut issues and hormone issues, and those are like the biggest things. And also men. I have men come to me that are trying to figure out their nutrition. And then I also think underlying is emotional stuff that's going on, for sure with them that needs to be unblocked. I'm not a therapist by any means, but inherently when you're coaching people, and even if you're just talking about nutrition, you have to talk about what's going on the inside, right? That's what holistic health is. Like, it's all connected. And so when people come to me, I think they're really, at first, the surface level is like, I want to figure out just like how to eat and integrate that into my lifestyle. I have people reach out to me who travel a lot, like a lot, and they literally just don't even know how to manage that. And then there's girls who come to me that are like, I've literally tried everything. My gut is wrecked. It's been like this for years. I feel super overwhelmed. I'm burned out. Like, please, I just don't know what to do. So it kind of varies, but I think across the board there's a sense of confusion, and I think that sense of confusion has a lot to do with a lot of people in general just feeling very disconnected from themselves and the culture. We don't really have, I think, a deep sense of culture here in America, especially when it comes to. It's not to say that we don't have American culture. Like, American culture is huge, right? But when it comes to these aspects of how to feed ourselves and how to nourish ourselves. Michael Pollan has this great quote. You've heard me say it many times, but it's that Michael Pollan says that America has a national eating disorder. And it's so true. Because if you look at other nations, if you look at France, if you look at Italy, if you look at Greece, you can pinpoint, like, they eat this way, right? In Africa, Ethiopia, like, they have their specific ways of eating. They're not going every decade cutting out fat and then cutting out carbs and then going high fat and going low carb and then going low fat and high carb and high protein, macrobiotic, no protein. It's just not a thing. And so everyone's confused. And that's where, again, this sort of tree of knowledge comes in, good or evil, which is like sometimes there's just too much information. What do you do?
Totally.
Yeah.
I remember being confused as well. And then now people ask me, like, what do I eat? And I'm like, I'm a flexitarian. Just whatever feels right in the moment, I'll eat. I mean, my baseline is I'm pretty plant-based when I'm cooking for myself. And then like kosher when it comes to meat.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
I think the issue is that a lot of people don't feel good. And so it's hard to even choose what to eat when you genuinely don't feel good. And no matter what you eat, your body feels bad. And I've been there.
What was that like when you were there?
My gut was wrecked. And I could say I don't know why. It was very psychosomatic. It was definitely related to stress and different things that I went through in my home life, and then also when I went away to college, and then the things that ensued in my home life that I didn't have any control over and couldn't be there for, which is totally tangenting on your question, but there's reasons why I got there, and that also just kind of adds to the point of like why I'm even doing all of this, which is I've also been through health imbalances, and it's why I think I can relate to people and have a lot of compassion. So it's funny because I said I have a lot of girls come to me about their hormones and about their gut, and those are the two things that I went through, and I haven't even really spoken on in depth a lot outwardly on social media, which is I lost my period for 2 years. That was one thing. And at first, I actually didn't really see it as a problem. It was 2017, 2018. I just started college, lost my period. I was vegan. I was overtraining without realizing it. I did not have enough body fat. It was not coming from a place of like I needed to be skinny and I needed to not eat. Like I genuinely thought I was doing fine. I thought I was super healthy and I just wasn't. Anemic without knowing it, and yeah, period left. Body was like, do not reproduce. and then I really struggled to get that back, and then finally did, and it was still irregular for a couple years after that, or maybe at least a year after that actually. And then not too long after that, or maybe sometime during that, I started to experience a lot of imbalances in my gut, where at first it was like I was just bloated a lot and I just didn't like feel that good, and I had to sort of like, I don't know, drink like kombucha a lot, and that kind of helped, and then it was like, oh wow, I'm seriously dealing with an issue that is giving me pain every single day. Like I had this pain in my lower left side that wouldn't go away, that like made me think the worst things. I have family history of like not so great things when it comes to GI, where everything was causing fear. I was chronically anxious for about 2 years, and that was tied hand in hand with the gut thing. There was definitely a brain gut connection thing going on. Like it would be if I was me during that time, I would be sitting on this couch with you, actually internally so anxious, and you wouldn't even know it. So that was another crazy thing, because at that time I was teaching yoga. I was even teaching yoga with Club Space. I was like teaching classes of 300 plus people, and people would be like, "You're so grounded, like you're so calm." And like it was my baseline energy, but I was really going through something horrendous on the inside, and I didn't even know what I was anxious about. And so all that's to say, that's what it was like for me, and we can dive deeper into it if you want. But it's brought me to where I'm at today, and I know it's the reason why these people reach out to me as well. Mm-hmm. So, did I answer your question?
You did. Where do you get your knowledge from about all this, and who are some of the voices that you listen to?
Michael Pollan's definitely a big inspiration, and I remember him becoming one of my biggest inspirations before I decided to get my master's degree, because my undergrad was kind of a journalistic degree, and I had kind of told myself, again with the imposter syndrome, right? Like, how can I share this knowledge about health, about culture, about food that I want to, and not feel like I have to have some sort of background specifically in it? And he does that, right? Like, he's a journalist. He's a phenomenal journalist, and he goes out, does the work, finds the information, and just puts it together in this beautiful, seamless way that is so beautiful to read and also watch, because they've made documentaries on some of his work. You can find it on Netflix. I hope you can still find it on Netflix. And so he was a shining example for me of there's a lot of ways to get this information out to people. And also, this is a really high quality way of doing it. So to this day, I mean, for sure, one of my biggest, Max Lugavere does a really good job of that as well.
We met him.
We did meet him, yeah, in Austin.
I would say you met him more than me, but I was in the room.
Yeah, I got a book signed by him. Cool guy. So he's another really great example of that. Journalistic background, has done amazing work of filing through the research, and he had his own personal reasons of doing that. And so that, I think connects a lot of people to the process as well. Who else?
What about that woman that does the cycle?
Yeah, Alyssa Vitti is amazing. So when I gotten my period back? No. When I had gotten my period back, it was COVID and my cycles were still very irregular. And I was going through this process of like, I never knew when my period was going to come. It was either going to be in 40 days or 45 days or 60 days, just like literally had no idea. It could pop out of nowhere. It was very late and long. And I had come across a podcast. It was Organic Olivia's podcast with Alyssa Vitti, and she was talking about cycle syncing. And I had never, ever, ever in my life heard any such concept. Not only the concept of cycle syncing, but also just the concept of a woman feeling connected to her cycle. And that was so mind-blowing for me. And actually, the day that I listened to it, I got home and I got my period. So, yeah, I mean, again, everything's connected. Are we really surprised? But
I don't think that's a coincidence.
no, it's not. No, it's not. She's a big one. I'd have to think about some more people. There's definitely really great people in the space putting out information about all things health, wellness, and empowerment that are doing great work. I could, just list them off.
Talk to me about your master's, what you're learning, what you're most excited about in taking that on.
Ooh, yeah. So my master's degree. Earlier I said I don't necessarily plan on being a one-on-one nutritionist or opening up a clinic or anything like that. My master's degree, what I'll say is that I never thought that I could get it, and I don't mean that in a way that I didn't think I had the capability. I actually didn't know that I could go for a master's of science in nutrition because I didn't have a scientific undergrad. And so I was doing a lot of this work in between my undergrad and now my master's, where I was just trying to learn a lot of things. I got a personal training certification. I got my holistic health coaching certification. And I was kind of piecemealing all these ways to like build credibility and knowledge, so to say, because I just wanted to do the work of helping people. And then I learned through another podcast, actually, that I didn't have to have any sort of background to go get my master's degree other than just an undergrad in general. So I spent, I think it was 3 weeks waking up every single day. And the first thought was, you need to get your master's degree in nutrition as soon as I learned that information that I could. So that was the answer for that. And I obviously had to reflect on why. Like, why do I want this knowledge? Is this for me? Is this just to know more? Like, why do I want this? And I think it goes back to me just wanting to get more of this information out to people. This is where the knowledge is power thing comes in. One of the biggest pain points that I've experienced in the health and wellness field is that there is just so much information out there and people are confused. And I just want to be a voice of knowledge. Or I'm sorry, I want to be a voice of reason. And so if someone, even one person, could listen to me, not that it has to be me, it's not like an ego thing, it's just if I obviously was brought here with a passion for this topic, so that's that. And so if I could be the disseminator of this information that allows someone to change their life for the better, if I can live my life and inspire someone to make positive change in themselves for the better and then for the people around them, because it's always a butterfly effect, I wanted to do that. And so that begs the question, like, why master's degree? Like, why can't you just do that anyway? And I think it just goes back to really two things. One, so much information out there. And so I wanted to know for myself that I was disseminating the right information. I didn't want to just go based off of what other people were saying or what the biggest voices in wellness were saying, or maybe like, go through studies but not fully understand how to do that. I needed a structure. And I knew that, YouTube University is a great thing. There's a lot of information on the internet, but I needed to learn from in a structured way, to feel, I think, confident in it, and just to know I wasn't like mishandling this important information. And people have asked me, oh, like, why do you feel like you needed to get it for the credibility? Like, that's kind of like it's kind of like an excuse, or like you shouldn't do something just for the credibility of it. And that's not where it's coming from for me. It's coming more from a place of, if there's someone on the internet who maybe hasn't studied this information, and there's someone on the internet who has a master's degree in this information, the first person could be super well knowledge, and I there's a lot of people like that I listen to. There's a lot of anecdotal information. There's a lot of people putting great content out there, but probably more people are going to trust the person who is more educated in the field, especially when it comes to science. And with that, you can make more change and lasting change. So it wasn't coming from, I need my master's degree for people to trust me. It was like, I genuinely think that for me specifically, doing that will create bigger waves for the information I'm trying to send out there. And so I must do it. Mm-hmm. I just knew it would bring bigger impact to the work that I'm doing, for both the personal reasons in getting the knowledge, and then also having more people trust the knowledge and where it's coming from, is the short answer. Yeah.
That makes sense. What is something that people don't know they don't know about their health?
Whoa.
It's a tongue twister.
What is something people don't know that they don't know? Yeah, no, I understand the question.
This is a great question. I'm so sorry. I'm
question.
going to toot my horn a little.
No, it's a fantastic question, Sab. What's something people don't know that they don't know? I think a lot of people know about deficiencies. People know that, a lot of people out there are iron deficient. It's one of like the most common deficiencies in the entire world. People know that there's people deficient in B12, and that those things inherently might cause or will cause imbalances in the body. So, you have low B12, you probably have low energy. And then that can also lead to neurological issues and a lot of other serious issues. Iron deficiency, also low energy, and also maybe like breathlessness and other things, and then also bigger issues down the line. But I think one of the most interesting topics that I learned in my biochemistry course was about the whole cycle of energy and all the pathways of energy, and learning about how when you're deficient in one thing, it actually basically backlogs the entire cycle, and it'll start to affect every single other nutrient. So that's like kind of a broad way of saying it, but I remember that being like a huge moment for me. I was like, it's not just about the iron deficiency. It's not just about the B12. It's not, especially magnesium, right? Like a lot of people talk about magnesium. Magnesium really is super, super important. But like if you're deficient in magnesium, it's backlogging the cycle for so many other nutrients to go through the pathway in the way that it needs to. So yeah, make sure that you're not deficient in things, folks, and get your blood work done and feel into your body and eat a whole food diet.
Just those things.
Yeah, just those things.
So you went a little geek mode on us just there. What else do you like to geek out on when it comes to like health stuff?
I mean, so much. Yeah, it's a great question, because I think it just also, it highlights that I geek out on a lot of things, and I don't really show that so much. But there are times when somebody just mentions, being around you, I get to geek out a lot. You mentioned earlier how, you once asked me about the pasteurization of milk and the difference between that and raw milk and what's actually the difference, what's dangerous, what's not, and it's just anything like that. I think trending health topics or things that nobody would know, so both ends of the spectrum, is just so interesting to me. I don't know why I'm so interested in the whole process of these things. I'm not interested in processes of everything. Like, if you tried to explain anything about engineering to me, I would fall asleep. Right? I would zone out. But mention anything about nutrition and the human body and how things work. I'm like, okay, but how and why and how and why, and please continue more and give me analogies about it, and let's fully understand this information. So really, I mean, it's a very broad question. If you ask me anything specifically, I could answer, but I geek out on pretty much anything surrounding health, nutrition, the whys behind certain things in the body, also anatomically. I'm very interested in these things. Obviously, makes sense considering the yoga and movement and all these things. So, yeah.
Talk to me about your current, let's say, health routines in life. I would say you're someone that has the discipline, yet also the flexibility when it comes to health and wellness. I think in the last month, you've traveled across the country. I mean, we were in India earlier this year. So what does your routine look like on an average day, and what does it look like when you're spontaneous out and about traveling the world?
Travel will throw a monkey wrench in the routines, that's for sure. But yeah, it just depends on what life you choose to live. And I love the travel life right now. I feel like I never planned these trips as of this year. They've all come about very spontaneously, as you said. So on a day to day, I mean, I wake up, thank God. Literally, I wake up and thank God. Really, that's what I do. A lot of my spirituality and my connection to God, I think, is totally interwoven into my health. So I'm going to include that. I wake up and I literally thank God for putting my soul back in my body.
Same.
Yeah. And then I hydrate real well. Big mason jar. Sometimes I use electrolytes, sometimes I don't. It just depends. And then maybe a pinch of salt, whatever. Sometimes it's just straight water because that's what I feel like. And I will sit in a moment of reflection. To be honest, I think especially because of the travel, although that's fully an excuse, I'm realizing as I say it out loud, I don't have a very specific morning routine in terms of I sit down and journal, or I sit down and do this, or I sit down and meditate. For a while it was I would sit down and listen to a 10-minute meditation on either the Othership app or the Open app. And then for a while I was doing my 5-minute journal. If it's not that, I sit for maybe a minute and or a few minutes, and I just talk to God, and I reflect on how I want the day to go, and I try to reflect on the aspects of the Creator that I really want to bring into my day. And that's that. And I make it real quick because I used to have very long, drawn out morning routines, and we're not doing that anymore. To be honest, I feel like when my gut was wrecked, it really messed up my morning routine because I just didn't really know how to navigate the day. And I know anybody who has gut issues will resonate with that. But now I can pretty much just get up and do my thing. And then I will either go to the gym or go for a walk. So I'm getting outside, I'm getting my sunshine walk, or I'm going to the gym, and then sitting outside. I usually it's a funny tiny specific detail is that when I wake up early for the gym in the morning, I will step outside first, and I do get sunlight in my eyes, and I try to feel the sun on I feel the sun on my skin, feel the sun on my eyes, and then I go into the gym, because otherwise I'm just under fluorescent light the entire morning, and that's not good for so many reasons, especially when you're just waking up. So that's pretty much a morning routine for me. Breakfast, yeah. When I'm traveling, it's actually not so different. I would say the exercise portion is really what ends up switching up. You know, you don't always have access to a gym when you're traveling. I often don't, to be honest. I don't usually stay in hotels. I'd like to more because that like gives the gym aspect, you know, some consistency. But it's often like Airbnbs or people's homes. And so, I either try to find yoga classes for movement. There ends up being a lot of walking. I mean, when we were in California, we walked so much and we'd walk every day. Did we end up going to any? We didn't end up going to any classes.
I think we went to one yoga class.
We did?
We did.
Oh my God. Yeah. Well, we went to Open.
It
was phenomenal. Yeah. So I try to find cool yoga studios. I'm not into workout classes that much, to be honest. It's not a control thing. I just think sometimes it's so hit or miss. And if I'm going to spend 45 minutes to an hour exercising, like I got to know it's going to be good or like not drastically difficult, or just like burn me out. Cause especially around travel, like the nervous system can get a little bit sensitive, for me. And so, yeah, traveling will be more, I'm trying to implement more grounding. I'm trying to implement more nature, more fresh air. That happens inherently here in Miami. So I don't have to think about it. Is there anything I'm not thinking about? What I'll say is that when I go to bed, a practice that I have been taking on that our friend David Sorkin actually taught me in all of our conversations.
Here he comes again, David.
Is before I would go to bed and maybe think about my day, or I would just reflect on what went well during the day, what I was grateful for. But specifically now, every night I go to bed, I shuffle through my day and I reflect on all the parts of my day that I could have been better. And it's not coming from a place of judgment. There is a very thin line between judging yourself and feeling that feeling of, wow, like I could have done that better. I could have, you know, eaten more protein there, or eaten less here, or not had the brownie, whatever it is, or I could have moved more. I think it's I could have versus like I should have, maybe, like not coming from a place of harsh judgment, but more, I'm so glad that I can even have the opportunity to reflect on this. Where do I know that I could have been more of my higher self? Where do I know that I could have been more like God in these moments? And even the tiniest of moments, in reactivity, in your personal habits, whatever it is, feeling into that, genuinely feeling into it, replaying how I could have done that better, and then asking God for yet another opportunity to be in that situation again, to be better next time. So that's been my nightly practice, and it's been really phenomenal. That, and I rub my belly at night. Every night I rub my belly. Seriously, I used to do it with castor oil, and that was great. And to be honest, now I just do it. And you want to go in, is this clockwise or counterclockwise? In the direction of digestion. So if you're if your hand is on your liver on the right side, then go left toward the stomach and down, and then to the right, and then up again. And I rub my belly, I don't know, good like 30 plus times. And it's just so good for digestion. It's a practice that I thought about last night, actually. I was like, people have asked me about my morning and nightly routines, and I don't ever mention the belly rubbing because it's become so inherent.
That's a good one.
Yeah. So I pray to God, I repent, and I rub my belly.
That has to be a clip. I'm recognizing so many of the practices that you've kind of shared with me. I think I'm thinking of one, which is the gratitude book that you gifted me, the 5-minute journal. And that's an amazing way to start and end the day. So I'm grateful for you to have brought that in. And it's like, we even take it with us when we travel. Like, it's that do or die. Like, I need this one little page. But at the same time, it's like, if I don't have it, then I just do it in my head on my own. Waking up, picking the things that I'm grateful for.
Same.
What my what I'm grateful for, what would make today great. And I always want to say it's already great, but I pick 3 things to just write down anyways to make it fun. And then setting your intention for the day. And then at night, writing the highlights and something that you learned. You taught me the belly rub. And I feel like you've also taught me the whole gua sha.
Oh, yeah.
The lymphatic drainage.
That is another thing that I implement almost daily. Yeah, is some form of lymphatic drainage, and I have a few routines around it. But gua sha is amazing. I can't say I do it every day because I don't, but I do it certainly several times in the week. Yeah, lymphatic drainage is so great.
Weekly routine.
Weekly routine. Things don't have to be every single day, people.
Mm-hmm. You heard
Except for like hydration, whole foods, and sunlight.
You heard it here first. We've mentioned yoga a lot. We've mentioned Kabbalah. We've been weaving in some of our spiritual practices. I remember you told me the story of when you went to your first yoga class, and people often think it's a workout, and then you had that aha moment where you were like, no, wait a minute, this is something so much deeper. It's a spiritual practice.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, so I had never done yoga before. I was 17 years old. My godmother invited me to do a candlelit yoga class in Coral Gables, somewhere around Coral Gables. And I remember my first thought was, ooh, cool. I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to get into yoga. I'm going to get like lean and long and get abs. And that was really my thought. It was purely physical. And thank God I had a really good instructor in that class, because you can fully take a yoga class and not have a good time. The amount of people who have come to me that are like, oh, yoga? Oh, it's so boring. Oh, it's so hard. Especially the boring piece, because I'm like, I've never taught a boring yoga class. I can tell you that. Thank God for Tiffany Levy and Lucas Zaglul over at Space and Space Yoga, because, I mean, one of my first introductions into yoga was space yoga and phenomenal music being played during classes and making it fun and dynamic. So anyway, yoga can very much not be boring. But anyway, 17 years old, I step into this class, and it is a beautiful candlelit evening class. The instructor's phenomenal. He's giving all this Dharma talk that's so inspiring. Blew my mind. And I walked out of the class, and my first thought was, oh, yoga is so much more than I thought it was. And I really think it was my first introduction to a sense of spirituality as well. My mom is definitely very spiritual, and she interwove that, I think, in the household, but my own personal sense of feeling spirituality, that was the first time. Yeah.
I know you get asked this a lot. Are you Jewish?
I had to take the mic away from my laugh.
Are you Jewish?
How would you answer that question for me? Being a Jewish person.
I mean, I'll go back to, again, our origin story. So there's so much richness in that first meeting. You were dating a Jewish man at the time.
Yeah.
And again, I was like, okay, this girl's cool. So I would say there's so much about the traditions of Judaism that resonate with you, like coming over my house for Shabbat, making challah, like there is some, I feel like a part of your soul is Jewish, regardless of the institutions that we like to put here in the physical world. I think that you're very connected to a higher power, and there's different paths, different languages, different texts to like do that through. And I think that the Old Testament and, again, Jewish like culture and tradition is one that you connect with.
Yeah, great way to frame it. And it bleeds a little more too into how I was brought up. So I feel like I must touch upon that in answering this question, which is that I was not brought up with any religion. If anything, like almost the opposite. So I actually grew up thinking my dad was atheist, and I didn't learn until the past few years that he is more agnostic, but he's just heavily against institutionalized religion, against organized religion, against the church, especially the Catholic Church. He's just had to see a lot of hypocrisy in that realm in his own personal life. My mom doesn't follow a specific religion, believes in God, and always expressed that in our childhood, but I didn't go to church unless I was sleeping over at a friend's house, and I was sleeping over on a Saturday, which meant Sunday we're going to church. I didn't have any Jewish friends growing up. I've never been to a bat mitzvah or bar mitzvah. So yeah, it's just hilarious to be where I am now.
You haven't yet, right?
No, I still haven't.
We'll make it happen.
I need one.
You need a bat mitzvah. There you have your answer, folks.
There you go. Yeah, isn't it? I didn't even think about that when I said it, but yeah, there you have your answer, really. Am I Jewish? I'll continue just answering the long version. Yeah, and I also very importantly did not grow up, I think, with a lot of tradition in my household. That's not necessarily like a bad thing or a good thing, or it can be pretty neutral, I think. I grew up, I think, with just a very, very open-minded view of the world, but also with that, we didn't really sit down for dinner a lot. And again, this is going to sound like I'm making random points, but it's leading up to something. I actually can't remember a time that I sat down at dinner with my immediate family. I think it was only for Thanksgiving and for family holidays where more extended family was coming in. And when I was 21, I started dating my last partner. We dated for 5 years, and he's Jewish. And I remember, first of all, his family sat down for dinner every single night. Every single night. His mom is an amazing cook. She's an amazing chef. And I remember feeling very emotional one of the first times that I sat down for dinner with them, because it seemed like such a natural process for them to just sit down to eat. And I feel emotional saying it right now. But yeah, it was just really beautiful for me. And then I learned about the concept of Shabbat. I don't know, I'm getting so emotional.
That's good. That's okay.
I learned about the concept of Shabbat, and I thought it was one of the most beautiful things I'd ever heard. And I know it's also connected to my personal connection with food and with sharing meals with people. And, one tiny note on the whole origin story of me even getting into health and wellness is that when I decided to learn about like food and nutrition and eat healthier for myself, something that happened in the process is that I started cooking meals for me that my family didn't want, and then they started to want it. And then I started introducing them to healthy eating and like making healthy desserts and like healthy foods, and they wanted it, and then they started to eat healthier, and that was like the coolest thing in the world to me. And so now it was like this mergence of something that I feel like I didn't even know that I didn't have in terms of growing up and sitting down at the table with people, and also the act of cooking and sharing a meal. So yeah, it stuck. And then I had been exposed to some of the holidays, right? Just being with someone for 5 years, I was exposed to five rounds of the Jewish holidays, but not super intensely. They weren't like super traditional in themselves. I think we actually had pork on some of the holidays, which is hilarious. So definitely not traditional by any means in that sense. As in like not extremely religious, I guess I would say. And it wasn't until the last couple years that I started becoming very interested in the meaning of the holidays. And that's because when I did go to Uruguay, we had actually left right before Rosh Hashanah. And or was it Passover? No, it was right before. It was like around September that I left to Uruguay in 2023. So we left like right before Rosh Hashanah, and I remember wanting to really learn about it, because now it was just me and him, and he wasn't going to be with his family for the holiday. And I thought, wow, well, let me learn what this is all about so we can continue the tradition. I even suggest that we do Shabbat every Friday. I mean, inherently we were having dinner most nights together because it was just us there, but maybe sometimes we'd be on our own or whatever it was. It was like Friday we are sitting down for a very intentional dinner. I learned the prayers. It's the little bit of Hebrew that I know. I remember learning how to make a brisket and some other very Jewish meals, recipes specifically for the holidays, like did the fasting, all these things. And I didn't even question it. It wasn't like, oh, this feels religious or I feel like I'm doing it for him. It was like I wanted to do it. It felt so natural. And then really when we when we broke up, ironically enough, we broke up right before Rosh Hashanah of last year. And at that time I had been studying Kabbalah. He didn't study Kabbalah, but we know the Kabbalah story. I already told that one. So I had been studying Kabbalah for almost all of last year. Then we break up and Rosh Hashanah is happening. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to be like alone for Rosh Hashanah. And then I was like, wait a second, but I'm not Jewish. And I was having a literal Jewish identity crisis. Because I wanted to celebrate it, but I wasn't Jewish, and you were going to New York.
That's hilarious.
And everyone that I knew that I possibly maybe would have gone to their house for it, like nobody was in town for it or wasn't going to be in town. And then my guardian angels, you and Sharif Malnik, our Kabbalah mentor, give me no other option but to go and make sure I celebrate Rosh Hashanah at the Kabbalah Center in New York. One of the most life-changing experiences. I mean, I am forever indebted to you for that, really. Wow. And I remember telling you all of my fears around not celebrating it, or, you know, this Jewish identity crisis thing that I was going to, and you sat down, you looked me in the eye and you said, you will not be alone on Rosh Hashanah, and you will be celebrating it. Just wait. Just give me a day. And I think you were leaving to New York the next day. So yeah. And then from there, I think it just kind of continued. And I thankfully had just the blessed luck to come across so many amazing Jewish people in my life. And it's still something that I reflect on it every day, you know. The other day I was with my team with the Conscious Bar, and they were going around the table asking each other, what's something that you're just excited for right now? What's exciting in life? And I literally said, you know, I'm in this big prep for Rosh Hashanah.
We're prepping.
I am prepping for Rosh Hashanah, and it's so exciting. And I cannot wait for it.
We're prepping.
And so, yeah, am I Jewish? Bro, not on paper, and there's a lot to learn. I'm still
Would you ever convert?
I would. Yeah, I would. And it's a reflection process that I'm currently in, because I have to know exactly why I want to do that and for what reason. And I just think the logical mind is trying to, like, you know, poke into my brain a lot and be like, why? Like, why do you want to do that? What's, you know, but it is a big decision to make. And, you know, I have to question, like, can I just still learn the things that I want to learn in Judaism, but not necessarily convert, right? Like, I've never been religious, so it's kind of an odd thing for me, to be tied to, like, this one specific form, because I feel like I'm integrating so much of it into my life via both Jewish tradition and also Kabbalah. But yeah, the amount of times I've gotten asked that question, I definitely would. Yeah.
I realize people probably don't even know what Kabbalah is.
Yeah.
And we've mentioned it a couple of times.
That's true. Comment down below if you didn't know what Kabbalah was before this podcast.
Would you like to give your interpretation?
Yeah. So Kabbalah in Hebrew literally translates to receive. It means to receive. And there's so many ways that I could describe it, and I'll just keep it simple. There's an analogy that I really like to use, which is, if you study nutrition to learn about food and how food works, or if you study anatomy to learn about the human body and how the human body works. If you wanted to learn about the soul and how the soul works, you would study Kabbalah. Kabbalah is the technology of the soul. It is like the algorithm. It's the software. It's the map of how the soul works. How did we get here? Why did we get here? What are we supposed to be doing here? What happens when my soul leaves my body? What happens when I go to sleep at night and my soul leaves my body? People don't ask, what happens when you're sleeping? What the heck is happening when we're sleeping? Kabbalah would say we leave our body, right? And there's a lot more to it that I don't know, and you're not supposed to share information that you don't know specifically, so I can't get into it yet. Sorry, I'm still learning. Kabbalah is not a cult.
Yeah, let's put an asterisk. Disclaimer, this is...
You can leave anytime, but you probably just won't want to. And it's a beautiful way to bring more meaning into your life. It is a very mindful practice. For me, when I started studying Kabbalah, I had come from a background of learning about a lot of different mindful modalities like Buddhism and Taoism and all, and you know, the yogic practices. And I remember feeling like there was a lot of crossover, especially when I was taking Kabbalah 1. But one of the biggest differentiators in Kabbalah is that it is so much for the entire population. And I don't mean the entire population is meant to study it. What I mean is it's not about being mindful for you. It's not about sitting down and meditating so that you can calm your nervous system, or you can go within yourself and you can just, you know, tap into you. It's how can I become my most connected and perfected self for the sake of other people. Mm. And that's, I think, one of the biggest things that differentiates it from these other modalities.
Mm-hmm. For the world, for the universe.
Yeah.
What's been your greatest takeaway in studying the wisdom?
Certainty beyond logic.
That was easy.
Yeah. Certainty beyond logic. And it's funny, right?
What does that even mean?
Okay, what does that mean? What is certainty beyond logic?
As if I don't know, but tell us.
Yeah, right. Certainty beyond logic is going past the rational mind because you can feel into your soul. I think that inherently takes a building of intuition, you could say. But then again, it's really not coming from you. So it's really actually a trust in the creator. That's really a better way to put it. Let me rephrase that. So certainty beyond logic is feeling so certain. It's remembering, actually, to be so certain. Remembering that God has everything laid out for you in the exact way that it's supposed to be laid out. A lot of people confuse that by saying, but there's good and there's bad. But there's really bad things that happen. So how is that God's plan? If the bad things happen, then that must have not been meant to. No, that was meant to happen. That was meant to happen. And everything that's going to happen is meant to happen. And we do still have free will in the process of all of it, but certainty beyond logic is knowing that in any situation, in any moment, every single second that you are listening to this podcast is exactly meant to be the way that it is. And if you can navigate your life like that in every single moment, you will not feel fear. You will not fear doubt, because fear and doubt are the opposite of certainty. Fear and doubt are the things that are the most disconnecting, right, from you and God or universe or created. By the way, I could not even say the word God like a year ago. For me, it was always universe. And then with Kabbalah, it's like, okay, creator. And that has a lot to do with my background and lack of religion and lack of God in my household. Now it's God, fully God all the time in everything.
I love that.
Yeah. And so certainty beyond logic is when you're in a situation and you feel like it shouldn't be that way, the immediate switch is, oh, wait, no, it's actually exactly supposed to be this way. And you can still choose to act in whatever way you want, but it's the reacting that is really the, I guess, differentiator there in how you live your life.
Pausing.
Pausing and knowing that every single thing that happens is an opportunity, right? We learn that in Kabbalah 1. Pause, what an opportunity. What a pleasure to be experiencing. What a pleasure to be that the cockroach on the floor. Oh, what an opportunity. Right? For me to
Overcome
either
my fear of cockroaches.
what an opportunity to overcome the fear. What an opportunity to not let this spike my nervous system.
Ruin my whole day.
Like think back to actually some of the worst moments in your life. I know it's a big one. If you can reframe that as being absolutely certain that needed to happen the way that it happened, not saying it's a good thing.
For your growth, for your transformation.
And for your growth, for the growth of everyone who was involved in their soul's evolution, then you will have certainty beyond logic. The logical mind tries to come in and say, oh no, that's not good though. That doesn't feel good. You must run, scream, hide. You must be stressed. You must be, if I'm not feeling stressed, then I'm not doing anything. If I'm not feeling stressed about this thing, well, there's nothing else for me to do, so I might as well feel stressed, right? No.
How important is spirituality to one's overall health? Like, where would you start with someone, let's say, better put, if you were coaching someone or someone came to you, where does health really begin?
So is this about where health begins or about the spirituality component?
Both. Where does it play in? Where would you start? I mean, I have a feeling you'll say it starts maybe with spirituality, so maybe I answered my own question.
I don't think I would say that. Because I think everyone is different. And I think that everyone has a path that they're meant to be on. To say that it starts with spirituality, I think, is trying to interject something that has meant a lot to me in my life and project. I probably would never start a conversation around spirituality, which is funny. I know that you've said, when you meet people, you like to ask them, do you believe in God?
So, do you believe in God?
I
mean, it's better than so what do you do?
So what do you do?
So what do you do for fun? Not for fun?
No, for me, truthfully, the answer is that everyone's different. And what I do like to do is I explore their connection to many different areas in their life, right? So, I mean, a cool thing specifically within my coaching that I learned with IIN is this thing called the circle of life. And there's 12 different pillars in our lives. And one of them is your finances. One of them is your home environment. One of them is your relationships, your nutrition, your movement, and some other things. One of them actually is spirituality. It is. And I would assess someone's connection to each of those things. For some people, finances and abundance just flows into their life. It's not an issue. For some people, it's at, the bottom of the totem pole, and it's the thing that's holding them back the most, or is seemingly the biggest block in their life. And for some people, they have a pristine home environment. For some people, they're total hoarders, right? And so I would really look at it like that and then shuffle it down to what do we need to work on and prioritize. Usually the issues that people come in with are not actually like the issues themselves. There's deeper rooted reasons. And some people find spirituality throughout the mess. Some people need to clean up their lives to feel spirituality. And everybody's process is different. It's not my job to bring that onto them. Like, I'm not God. God will find them the way that they need to be found. So, yeah.
Well, I know we could sit here for hours.
Yeah.
And I hope we have another episode together.
You're really good at interviewing.
Would you think?
This was so great.
Well, I have some cherries on top, which is some rapid fire
questions. Oh, okay, great.
So these are
rapid fire.
These are meant to, I guess, get the neuro whatever going.
Neuro whatever. You heard it here first.
All that stuff going. Okay, neurons firing You know this, I don't.
Yeah.
What what book are you reading right now?
I'm reading God Wears Lipstick by Karen Berg, and I often flip through The Creative Act by Rick Rubin.
What would you consider your greatest failure?
None.
No failure.
There are things I can feel into regret, but it's all part of the process. So,
Who has impacted you the most in your life?
my father.
What supplement can't you live without?
Oh, I just don't take them that consistently. I really like Symbiotica vitamin C.
It's a good one.
It's a good one.
What product can't you live without?
A lot of my Ilia stuff. Ilia is so great. And actually right now I found this amazing skin moisturizer from Justa in Venice, and I'm so sorry I don't know the name of it.
It's good.
It's so good.
We'll put
it's
a
like
link.
this orange pasty delicious.
You could eat it.
You could eat it. It's so good. Also, well, Pure-ish Sun Balm I've used every single day for almost a year. So really I can't live without that one. Yeah.
What is your go-to thing to make for dinner?
Oh my god, my Japanese sweet potato and chicken. That's like it's my go-to, and broccoli. Like I literally could eat that every single meal. For dinner? Yeah.
What's a mantra that you live by?
A couple. Be the change you want to see. And I mean, there's several related to God. I mean, several related to God. Certainty beyond logic. Yeah.
Where is a place you haven't been to yet but want to visit?
Spain and Israel.
Describe yourself in 3 words.
Oh God, we talked about how hard this question is to answer, and I never thought about them.
Top 3.
Intuitive.
As she looks inwards.
Yes, let me look inward. Emotionally connected. I didn't want to say emotional, because I feel like I've become less emotional, but I'm definitely emotionally connected. Intuitive, emotionally connected, are those not the same things? And intelligent.
I agree. Would you ever live anywhere besides Miami?
I sure would.
All right, I'll leave it at that.
I sure would live somewhere else. I'm moving to California in November.
The cat's out of the bag.
Cat's out of the bag. Yes, I will be moving to Los Angeles this November. So,
All right, and the last and final question is, drum roll, please.
oh God.
What is your favorite memory together? I had to end it on me too, because we started
I know.
about our story.
Oh my God, my favorite memory.
Yes, this is our friendship, by the way, all the time.
Oh my God, there's so many. You know one that comes to mind, Sabrina? You actually weren't there for it. I know. I had just gotten out of my 5-year relationship. I did the Rosh Hashanah. That was a whole thing. And I was quite scared to get back home because I lived in the same building as my last partner and the puppy. And the whole thing was so emotional. And I walked up to my building and I walked into my apartment, which I had left kind of a mess just because, And I walked in and it was so clean. It had been vacuumed. It had been scrubbed. There were fresh sunflowers in a vase. There was a selenite stone with candles. It smelled amazing. There was a note. There were fuzzy socks on my bed. Sabrina had gone into my apartment and cleaned the entire thing and made it feel like home. And I still have the note that you gave me under the selenite candle holder. And I think it said something along the lines of like, you know, like, you will always be home. And I just burst into tears when I walked in there, and I thought, wow, like, if an angel does walk on earth, Sabrina is the epitome of that. So that's my favorite memory together. I love you. I love you too.
Thanks for tuning in to Binah Says.